Awesome. So we're going to be talking about pet supplements today. So pet supplements is a huge industry. It's a billion-dollar industry spent every year. So owners are using supplements. And I really wanted to get down and dirty with what supplements are worth investing the time and the money and the research into. What do we know about them? Are we still a little bit unsure of? And then what can we use safely as well? Because there are some things that we use on the human side that aren't always so safe for our pets. So I wanted to kind of touch on a few of those different things. So how many people in here are using pet supplements? Does anybody? I do too, so it's totally fine. You don't have to be scared. So 1 out of every 3 pet owners is currently using a supplement. And I'll probably go over a few of what you are using at home, but if you have any at the end of the presentation that you would like to kind of discuss with the group, I'm more than happy. I just kind of picked a variety of some of the most common pet supplements that I get asked about on a day-to-day basis. And then also a few kind of other ones that we use it for some of our more common canine diseases. And owners are so you're spending pretty good money on your supplements, so anywhere from 20 to 30 bucks a month on your supplements, and I really want to make sure that we're using supplements that are worthwhile, that's worth that 20 or 30 bucks a month. Because honestly, that's what's most important. I want you to get the nice value for your money. And then also too, just kind of stressing, we're open to trying new and different things. Medicine changes each and every day. And I love it when my pet owners kind of talk to me about something that they're interested in trying with their pets, just to make sure that it's safe and I can look up and kind of see, how can we best be using this? What dose can we be using it? So we know what to expect for your pet. So also just kind of opening that line of communication so we can use these supplements safely. All right. So the first supplement that I'm going to talk about are fish oils. So does anybody use fish oils personally or for their pets? I'm going to say both. I'm a huge believer in fish oils. I can find just about any dog a reason why that pet should be on fish oils, whether we can use that for cardiovascular health, we can use it for joint supplementation, coat health, especially our environmental allergy kiddos. This can be really helpful for improving that skin barrier. And we actually are using it with renal disease, so kidney disease as well. And there's been a really nice amount of research that's been done on fish oils. That's one of them that honestly we know the most about in regards to our pet supplements. And our pets need this every day. So with fish oils, every pet every day needs some sort of omega-6 added into their diet because it's not something that they are able to produce on their own. So many pet diets will actually also have omega fatty acids kind of built into the diet. One of the fatty acids that we really like are omega-3 fatty acids. So not all fatty acids are created the same. So you kind of have those 2 major classes of fatty acids. So you have your omega-3 fatty acids and then your omega-6s. The 3s are really, really wonderful fatty acids because they're not as inflammatory as some of our other fatty acids that are produced within, that are present within our diets and other things that our pets eat on the day-to-day. And these come from a lot of our marine sources, so like our salmon oils and things like that. That's where pets can get the most amount of omega-3 specifically. And I kind of touched on a few of the different things that we use them for. So we can use them for osteoarthritis patients. So my shepherd's running around, his name's Gibson. He takes omega fatty acids every day for his joints as part of his joint protection plan, just to try to help minimize the progression of his osteoarthritis secondary to his hip dysplasia. We can use it for our environmental allergy kiddos to help try to protect that skin barrier so you're not getting that kind of flaking up of that dryness of the coat. We can also use it in kidney disease because it does have so many inflammatory properties where we try to protect the kidney from inflammation. And then also we're using it more and more in our senior pets to help promote cognitive function, so to prevent antioxidant injury to the brain.
Some side effects though, because any time that you add in a new medication, you always have to be a little bit concerned of what are some things that we could see if maybe my pet got a little bit too high of a dose or isn't tolerating the medication well. So gas is a really big one. They can have some toots, some loose stools as well, and then we can occasionally see vomiting or just not eating super well. But for the most part, we can find a dose that will be helpful for your pet and use at a dose where you don't see those side effects. And the dose range is going to vary based on what we're treating your pet for. So some of the doses are much higher than others, like the joint dose is super, super high compared to our skin dose. So that's going to vary a little bit. And I did bring kind of some options. So fatty acids come in tons and tons of different forms. They come in a little oil liquid that you can put on top of the food. They come built into some foods. So a lot of our joint diets, our Adipe diets, these have the omega fatty acids kind of built into the diet. And then your traditional capsules as well. The next thing I'm going to touch on is Adequan. So, oh yeah. Yeah.
Do you prefer capsules, liquid, or food?
So honestly, I think it depends on the pet and what the pet tolerates best. I personally use a combination of food and capsules to get the appropriate
Dose, because a lot of times the dose in our food isn't quite high enough, especially for our osteoarthritis kiddos, where you're just not getting quite as much fatty acid as you would like. So a little bit of a combination of both. And also, what does your pet tolerate? Gibby, come here. Sorry, my dog's misbehaving. So the next supplement that I'm going to talk about is Adequan. So who has heard Dr. Pam's amazing Adequan talk? Okay, so I'll just leave. No, I'm just kidding. So Adequan. So Adequan is pretty fantastic. So it's the only FDA-approved injectable medication that is meant for helping to modify the osteoarthritis process as it progresses during a pet's lifetime. And it's a polysulfated glycosamine glycan. Fancy way to say building block of cartilage, honestly. It's that little end piece, so when our dogs are running around on these joints day to day and injuring their cartilage, what's happening is we're getting lots and lots of inflammation within this joint space. And what the Adequan helps to do is inhibit all of that damage within the cartilage, because cartilage serves as that nice little shock absorber. So you have your little bone, and on top sits your cartilage. And as you're getting cartilage damage, you eventually get to a point where bone hits bone, and that's when pain happens, because that's where all the little nerve endings are. So what we try to do is we try to protect that cartilage as best we can, because once it's gone, we can't put it back. So I think prevention is really quite key with a lot of our osteoarthritis conditions or some of our orthopedic conditions. So these are hip dysplasia kiddos, our patellar luxation kiddos, maybe, baby Ween over here who's got a really long back. She's holding her up for her demo. And what Adequan does is it's given as an injection that goes underneath the skin and it travels to the joint. And that's where it protects our joint against injury and helps to rebuild that damaged cartilage surface. And it's going to stay in that joint for up to 3 days, decreasing inflammation and helping to repair that damaged surface. And we're going to use that as early on in the disease process, or maybe even preventatively in some cases. So our working dogs specifically, or dogs that are predisposed to developing orthopedics. So who's got a dog that weighs more than 50 pounds? Your dogs, everybody's dogs. Because those dogs, just purely because they're moving around with more weight on their joints on a day-to-day basis. So they have that extra stress on their joints every single day. And it's a matter of time. Everybody gets arthritis. It's trying to slow that process down as best we can. And then once we go ahead and get started with the Adequan, oh yeah.
So do you do heavy front dosing? Because I know at the beginning there was a big study about doing a heavy load front dose.
So we do a loading dose. So this helps to get the medication into the joint spaces quickly, and we do that twice a week for 4 weeks to get all of the inflammation and the cartilage
damage under control, and then once we have nice control, then we go to a boosting schedule. And that's going to vary based on your pet's condition and how we're using the medication. So if we're using it preventatively or later on in the stage of disease, the dose range is going to change a little bit with how frequently are we giving the medication. But typically it ranges anywhere from 2 to 3 months to maybe every 2 weeks, especially in those later stage osteoarthritis cases.
Dr. Lindsay, when should we start Adapon?
As early as you possibly can. So I would say if I had a 12-month-old Great Dane, I would have done it yesterday. Like there's the key with Adequan is really prevention, knowing that once the damage to the cartilage starts to happen, we're playing catch up. We're kind of trying to clean up the mess that's already happening. So the goal is to try to think ahead and think in those higher risk patients. You know, this is something that we need to be thinking about as honestly part of their wellness plan. Mm-hmm.
So Cindy asked, should we start her little dog Kraken on it? And I just wanted to remind you guys that arthritis happens because of abnormal forces or abnormal joints. So the abnormal joints are the hip dysplasias, elbow dysplasias, twisted legs, straight stifles, long backs. The abnormal forces are fly ball, agility, field trialing, anything running. If you're a trail runner, your dog is going to get arthritis in its elbows from pounding up and down the mountains. Those are all things that will lead to arthritis. So there you go.
And generally this medication is really well tolerated. So I've been using this now since I started with Dr. Pam's practice for almost 3 years, and I think I've had one kiddo that's really had an adverse effect that we actually had to treat, so do something about. It was a little kitty named Katie. She would have vomiting after she got her Adequan, and we were able to use other medications to prevent nausea and vomiting, and she was still able to receive her series. So generally pretty self-limiting, usually some tummy upset, maybe a little bit of sensitivity where we got the injection, but otherwise very, very well tolerated, which is really nice. The safety index is really high, which I like. Any questions about Adequan or kind of personal success stories?
So my dog,
Yeah.
I just find out, she's 10, that she's got the arthritis. So it's not a cure, but it's, tell me.
Yeah.
She's already got it really bad.
Yeah, so we already know that there's disease within the joint. So we have osteoarthritis. We're never going to be able to take that osteoarthritis completely away. But the goal now is to decrease inflammation and protect the cartilage that's still present and try to slow that process down so that way our pets move comfortably and they're able to live their normal lifestyles. So it's kind of used as part of our pain management protocol.
I just want to add one thing to that, Shreen. Adequan is the only product that will actually add cartilage. So if there is a defect in cartilage, the FDA studies were done on thickness of cartilage. And so they check the thickness of cartilage beforehand and they check the thickness of cartilage afterwards. And it was demonstrably different, and that's why they got FDA approval. So as long as there is some cartilage there, it will help.
Oh. All right. So we're moving on. Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
You said that the FDA approved plan based on studies, I assume.
Yeah.
Has anyone heard that the studies that were done by the manufacturer of Adequan? Is that true? Is that not true?
I was going to say, so typically, yeah, go ahead.
So Leupold is the manufacturer, and the studies were independent studies done. But they were done a long, long time ago. Like the first time I used Adequan was 1976, before most of my doctors were born.
We've used it in horses too forever.
And I used it in horses
Adequan's
first.
been around for a while.
Truly, it was in horses first and then transferred to dogs.
I like it. I love it. Thank you, Dr. Pam. And they keep doing different studies to kind of, so one of the things that I like about a lot of these supplements is the research wasn't a once and done. They're continuing to see how can we better use these products in our day-to-day practice and for what our pets' lifestyles are, because pets, the lifestyle expectations change as our generations change. I mean, the term pet parent is probably something that you've heard and then that you'll continue to hear each and every day. So I think that medicine's going to continue to evolve, and a lot of these companies are really forward thinking and, you know, how can we best show our value? And they're doing that with a lot, staying current with new research and things like that every day. All right, so the next supplement that I was going to chat about was turmeric. So has anyone used this as well in their personal life or with their pets? All right. Turmeric. All right, so this is a traditional Chinese herb. It's been around for over 4,000 years. A lot of people will also use it in cooking if you like to make curry-like dishes. So you can actually, this is something that you may even have in your kitchen already, especially if you like to experiment with different cuisines and things. And this has been one of those that we've always kind of, so it's the Chinese herbalists have used this for years and years and years for its anti-inflammatory processes. And they also believe that it could potentially have some anti-neoplastic or some cancer protective effects as well. So it's being studied currently with different chemotherapies to see if we can try to use turmeric to slow down a few different cancers. The hard part is that it's so variable based on the product. So the strength is going to vary depending on who makes it, how much active ingredient you actually get within the product. And then also your dose ranges are really going to vary based on the product itself too. So that's the hardest part with this medication, is trying to get, or this supplement, excuse me, I should say, is trying to get a really formal study where they're using specific doses in a specific dosing schedule. And that unfortunately isn't really available in the literature yet, but anecdotally people are using it and they're having pretty nice success, and they're using it with management of osteoarthritis patients. They're using it with patients that have cancer or other chronic diseases. So some of our inflammatory bowel disease patients or some of our environmental allergy patients are already receiving this supplement. And the goal right now is to see if someone can actually do a nice study and get us some nice evidence-based research, because that's unfortunately the area with this herb that we're kind of seeing a little bit of a lack, is there's not a nice study that says we use this medication or this herb at this strength to treat this disease, and this is what we found. But anecdotally it is being used, and overall it's very well tolerated. Typically we can see some tummy effects, especially if it's used at a little bit higher doses or if the pet's a little bit sensitive to this medication. But this is one that I'm kind of keeping my eye on, because I'm hoping that as medicine changes, that this is something that gets us a little bit more evidence-based behind it. So the jury's still out on this one. But if you're interested, I think there's a lot of options on how to use it safely in day-to-day. Any questions? Does anybody have anything else they'd like to add? Anything through hospice? Yeah.
My nutritionist highly recommends that.
Mm-hmm.
Really good one out there. She's done a lot. She went to a thing on that, and they were showing it because it's water. It's not water soluble, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or it is water soluble. It's not water soluble. No, I don't think so.
I was going to say, typically no, from what I've seen. So it's usually a powder and it's sprinkled over food, or it's put into a little capsule. Yeah.
I like to drink it in tea, and then just down to the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And this one that they come out with is actually water soluble, so it'll
Oh, nice.
and it'll stay
Mhm.
in solution.
Huh.
So you can absorb a whole lot more of it.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. All right. All right. We'll move on to our next supplement. So CBD. We got some CBD folks. Where are CBD folks at? All right. So CBD is relatively new within veterinary medicine. So I always kind of make sure we caveat CBD, cannabis, very different things. CBD is made from hemp. It is legal in every state, and we're actually starting to use this more and more within veterinary practice, and we're actually seeing some really nice research coming out of some big veterinary schools. They're studying it right now on could this potentially be used for our patients who have seizures. We're also using it more in our patients that have cancer to help with pain management, and then also to serve as an appetite stimulant, and then osteoarthritis as well. So this is one of those that's been around within the human market for a really long time, but it's just kind of making its break into the veterinary market. We're currently trying to gather some information on a new product that we're trying that's a CBD with a probiotic involved. And the hardest part right now is the research isn't there for us to say, yes, we can use this to treat this disease. We're still learning about this product because it is so new for us. And right now, I can say anecdotally it's used for lots and lots of different things. So we use it for things like anxiety, pain management, appetite stimulant, things along those lines, but we're still waiting on that evidence part to really give solid recommendations for specific diseases. Generally, it's a very well tolerated medication. It's not psychoactive, so it does not have those kind of trippy feelings that some of our illegal substances may have, and the safety level is really high for our pets. So this medication, this herb is overall very well tolerated in our pets. If it is given in very high amounts, some of our pets can seem a little bit disoriented. Sometimes they can have a little bit lower blood pressure or potentially even hypersalivate, but overall generally very well tolerated. And right now is really when we're going to learn the most about this, because all of our laws are changing in regards to how can we use CBD and things along those lines. Right now, CBD is not, it is illegal for CBD to be used in treats or in food, but we can use it, continue to use it as a supplement. So if you have any questions or things or would like to take a look, this is the product we're currently gathering information and trying to get some, so this company's working to get some information on how is this product working out in the marketplace.
Does it come in a topical?
Yes.
Oh, you've seen it as a topical? I was going to say I've seen it as a chew, a capsule, and a liquid. So it does come in a
So the company that Brianna works for
the
has
salve.
a topical.
Yeah.
And I would say the jury's out. My mom tried to use it on a rheumatoid arthritis and said she didn't really feel like there was any improvement. But I think it's very, very, very individual.
And this is another one too where I think we're going to really have to find out more about what's the best way to formulate these medications, what is the appropriate strength that we need to be using, and I think that's something that we're not quite sure of yet. We don't know exactly how is the best way to be using this, and how's the best way for this medication even be prepared so that way our pets can maybe absorb it the best. So that topical versus oral versus injectable, we're just not sure. That research hasn't quite been done yet.
So can I just add in about this CBD Immune Plus that we're using? The people that manufacture it are in Colorado, and she is a scientist from, I don't know, like Kiev. She's ridiculously smart. I think she was one of the original founder or people who identified probiotics and their use in the immune system, that our GI tract is our biggest immune organ that we've got, and so if we take care of it, it can help us in lots of different ways. And the fact that she's a scientist and is ridiculously smart and ridiculously meticulous is kind of cool to me. The product is
I'll pass
from
one around.
CBD produced in the United States. Apparently, lots of CBD is sourced from India and China. And the quality and quantity are not necessarily correct or insured or promised. So what you say is not necessarily what you get. These guys have a pretty rigorous lab procedure, and I like them and I feel comfortable with them, and that's why I can back this product. My dog JC, that a lot of you guys know, is a big old standard poodle, and my personal anecdotal evidence is He is neurotic. He won't eat. He's always shaking in his boots. He's terrified of everything. Super, super anxious ever since Eleanor died. And he's probably put on, and I would not encourage any of your dogs to gain weight, but my dog needed to. He's probably put on 7 pounds in 3 weeks and just had continuous CBD every day. And he's a different dog. It's really, really fun. So he's not shaking. He's not. It's the Twinkies that are the problem, I know. Are you kidding me? I cooked this dog Sun Valley grass-fed beef for 3 years because he wouldn't eat. And now he eats readily and is very happy. So thanks, Dr. Lindsay.
No problem.
So his CBD is the CBD Immune Plus, and it's a capsule. You can break it open or drop it down their throat. I literally just pop it down his throat because he takes pills so well. And these are capsules, or you can break them open on their food, and they do just as well either way. But I like that he also has GI issues, so he's super anorexic. He hates to eat. And his poop is perfect. So I'm thinking these could be, this may be our go-to supplement for dogs that have IBD, that have any GI issues. So anyway, there you go. Any others? Yeah. Ashley.
You said that has a probiotic in it,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Do you know how many CFUs?
Oh, I would have to look on the, so.
And how many different kinds of bacteria there are?
Yeah, she's yeah. 12 milligrams.
Her specialty is lactobacillus fragments. I have no idea what's in there, but I already having used it. First of all, I trust her. That's why I used it. But second of all, it seems to be working, and I'm not very smart about this kind of stuff.
All right, and I am going to touch on probiotics a little bit more. All right. All right, so now we're going to talk about another one that's been used very commonly within human medicine. I'm sure many of you have taken this supplement, and some of your pets may be on it as well. So our glucosamine and chondroitin sulfates. Does anyone currently take those medications or use those for their pets? All right, I was going to say that's a really common one. So these medications and these supplements are primarily meant for joint support, so our pets that have osteoarthritis or other joint conditions. And these I kind of combine together, but they do work in 2 slightly different ways. So the glucosamine is a building block of cartilage, and it helps to stimulate the growth of the cartilage. Unfortunately, with glucosamine, there's not been great research that, yes, they eat the glucosamine, but it really doesn't get into the joint as well as we originally thought it does. And it doesn't have that capability like the Adequan to actually try to rebuild that damaged cartilage, which is one of those, which is where I think it still has value, but it was a little bit underwhelming for me in the research, just purely because they didn't have the proof in the research to say, yeah, this is truly really, spend your money here. You're going to get the most bang for your buck. Unfortunately, it just isn't absorbed quite as well and doesn't get to the places within the joints that we need it to get to. Whereas the chondroitin helps to inhibit cartilage-destroying enzymes. And I think this medication does do a little bit better of a job. So I think when they're used in combination, we have some really nice products, so our Cosequins and things along those lines, where we can really try to delay progression of osteoarthritis. And we have some nice research that says, yeah, okay, especially some of these versions that are, and it's very product specific. So some of these versions that have the versions of the chondroitin sulfate that are really well absorbed by the GI tract, these medications are actually going where we're needing them to be going and decreasing inflammation within a joint space. But not every glucosamine, not every chondroitin sulfate is created equal. A lot of these are not absorbed as well as other products. So I think this is where you really rely on your veterinarian to say, hey, this product works. This is one that has had good research that they show that is actually getting where it needs to be doing and getting the job done. Because I think that there are a lot of products out there that unfortunately can't. And they work synergistically together. And typically they're given daily as a supplement, and they come in a few different forms as well. They come in tablets, they come in chews, they come built into diets and things. So there's a lot of different options in regards to joint supplements. Dr. Steph, do you have anything? I know we've chatted about this one a ton.
Yeah, from the research that I've done, that the Nutramax company that makes Basiquin, that's the one that's typically recommended, in particular Basiquin Advanced. And they come in these soft chews, and I'm giving them to my golden retriever with arthritis right now. He eats them up like they're the best treats in the world. So if I had to point to one to recommend to you, that would be the one that I would recommend.
So. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
So what if your glucosamine is for people?
So glucosamine, number one has to be the glucosamine hydrochloride. Any other option is one that's not going to be very well absorbed by the GI tract. So that's one that I immediately say, nope, spend your money elsewhere. It's not gonna be well absorbed, and it's not going to be helpful for your pet. And typically I'm looking for a combination of this glucosamine and chondroitin sulfate together, because I think together they work very well, where independently they both have a little bit of shortcomings. Dr. Pam, anything to add? This is Dr. Pam's area, so I'm
This is
gonna.
my favorite subject. I can talk about it all night long. No, the only thing I would say is that I will never tell you not to waste your money on supplements, on glucosamine and chondroitin supplements, but they are not proven. And so they will probably never hurt your dog, but they will also probably never help your dog. And so if you really have a dog that has osteoarthritis, or you're worried about them having osteoarthritis, skip the supplements, save the $80 a month that you're going to spend on them, and use Adequan, because we know Adequan works. We have scientific evidence that it works. The other thing about glucosamine chondroitin supplements is, if you just think of it logically, so the Basiquin, which is the best product I think on the market, in part because of the avocado and soybean oil that help the glucosamine chondroitin penetrate cell walls. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
So Basiquin, I think, is the best product out there for any kind of oral joint supplement. But if you think about it, you eat the glucosamine, it goes into your stomach. It's a really lovely, very warm hydrochloric acid bath, and the product is broken down, and then it gets absorbed into the bloodstream, and then it goes to our liver, which we're all very happy to have. Your liver detoxifies, and so it takes things out that shouldn't be there or that are known as foreign, and it sends them out through the common bile duct and out into your poop chute, and it's gone. So there's very little evidence that supplements taken orally will ever get into a joint capsule or into the joint fluid or into the cartilage to help it grow. So don't kid yourself. The glucosamine chondroitin, I think, is very, we know that it's anti-inflammatory, and we know most of those products, like Basiquin, has lots of ingredients in it that help with inflammation, and they're fantastic. But be aware it's limited in its ability to do what you think it's going to do if you think it's going to help your dog's osteoarthritis go away. Okay? Christy? Yeah.
So, a lot of dogs with joint diseases are prescribed, especially dog food that has higher glucosamine. Is it just because they are flooding it with too much glucosamine that makes it effective, or is it a certain type?
So the question was, does dog food lying? Are they telling the truth? And is it marketing hype, or is it legit if it's going to get it? It's marketing. Glucosamine and chondroitin in dog food is marketing. Do you agree, Dr. Lindsay?
Yeah, and I would say too, a lot of the joint diets are going to have other things built in that have been better studied, that say yes, they truly work. So antioxidants. You're also going to see some of the fish oils and things, and then your combination of protein and carbohydrates is also going to be on par for what you need for. Typically, it's going to be a large breed dog with big bones and things along those lines. So I lean more towards those other things that we know a lot about, and we say, yeah, that stuff really works. And then this is, yeah, it's not going to hurt anything, but how much benefit do we get from it? I'm not really sure, honestly. And I don't think the literature has great data that says it works great, but I know it can't hurt.
That was perfectly said.
Yeah.
Nothing to add. That was lovely.
All right. So we'll move on. So this is one of my areas where I'm really interested. And I think I've gotten a lot of this from this guy. So my dog struggles with anxiety, and he also has a super sensitive gut. So the next supplement that we're going to talk about is probiotics. I love probiotics. This is another one where I could find about 9 out of 10 dogs that I could find a good reason for them to be on a probiotic, whether it's chronic medications that they receive, or antibiotics to treat that skin infection that they're currently being treated for, or also just to maintain a healthy GI immune system, because just like Dr. Pam said, it's one of our biggest immune systems within our whole body. You have this whole system that's called GALT that helps animals to see different things that they eat in their diet and kind of make sense of what's good, what's bad, what is okay that the body absorb, and what should I just keep moving on through. Baby Ween, that got me. So probiotics. So when we talk about probiotics, you kind of think about them in 3 different ways. So you have your prebiotic, your intrabiotic, and then your kind of probiotic that we think of classically. So your prebiotic you're putting in beforehand, your intra you're kind of putting right in the middle, and then the probiotics kind of the more traditional where we're letting the body, it's going on top of the food and we're letting the body process this. And typically we're using a lactobacillus strain. The ideas, unfortunately, we don't really know what's the ideal strain to be having in our probiotic. This is just one of the most common that we're using. I think the jury's still out on exactly which strain should we be using and how many CFUs should be involved in a probiotic, and that's going to vary based on why are we using this probiotic. But I think this is one of those that's generally super well tolerated. A lot of them too have flavor enhancers, so they help to increase appetite. I know Purina's Fortiflora specifically, that's why I use it a lot of times, is my dog won't eat when he boards, so I put probiotic on it to try to encourage him to eat really well while I'm not in town. And then also helping to try to strengthen that GI immune system, because we need those bacteria in our GI tracts, so they help us to break down our nutrients, and to recognize those abnormal and normal things. And we can use this just like I said. So you can use it for stressful situations to try to prevent tummy upset, to encourage appetite, to keep normal GI flora if your pet's on antibiotics, or if your pet's being treated for anything like intestinal parasites, just to help to maintain that normal balance, or say we have a kiddo that has either a food sensitivity or inflammatory bowel disease. I think that these can be really helpful to try to keep things as calm and quiet as we can. And there was actually a really cool paper recently. So who's got kitties at home? Let's see some kitty parents. Who's heard of herpes virus? Has anyone's cat had herpes virus? Yeah, we got one. Okay, super common. Most common viral disease that we see in our kitty population by far. This is actually, there's a new paper that's just been put out within the last 6 months that's shown that using a probiotic can help to decrease viral shedding in these herpes virus cats. So really cool medication that I consider for all of my new cats that are just coming home from the shelter, to their new families, to try to prevent upper respiratory disease in our kitties. So I think that's super exciting, kind of the latest and greatest with probiotics. Because unfortunately with viruses, we don't have a lot of great options out there. We don't have tons of antivirals like the human market. A lot of times we let these diseases run their course, and they can have a lot of morbidity where pets just feel yuck. So I think anything that we can try to do to speed the healing process up or decrease this viral load is always preferred in my book. So any questions about probiotic? They come in tons and tons of different forms. They come built into foods. They come as powders that you sprinkle on top of the food, chews, capsules, liquids, all sorts of different things. Yeah?
Okay, so to go back to what Dr. Pam was saying about supplements and how absorption is a problem, why would probiotics work as soon as they hit the digestive tract and the dog's killer,
all that stomach acid
that destroys anything? Would that destroy the probiotics?
So in general they can, but a lot of the probiotics are formulated so that they can either survive through that acid bath and then get into that intestinal tract so they can do their job. But that's the hard part is a lot of products out there don't. They get into the stomach and they die. That's where I think I really lean on products that have good research behind them, that say they get to where you need them to be, so into the intestinal tract, specifically the small intestinal tract, so they got to get all the way through that stomach. And I think there are a few products that have shown, yes, we can actually do that, but it's not as many as I would like. So I think, again, that's where the jury's still out a little bit. We need a little bit better research. And this is where we look to people that are making these medications and we say, we need more. We need you to show me this works and it gets to where we need it to be. Yeah, cool. Any other probiotic questions? But in general, very safe, very well tolerated. The only kiddos that you have to be a little bit really concerned about are patients that have sensitivities. A lot of these are built into treats and chews, so are food allergy kiddos. So a lot of them have pork, chicken, beef, those types of things that can be kind of aggravating for those kiddos. Wonderful. All right. So milk thistle is my next one. So has anyone used milk thistle themselves? All right, so we got a lot of milk thistle. So this is an herb that's been along for a really long time. It's a Chinese herb. The active ingredient is called silbum, and it is made out of a seed. So they take a seed and they press it and they're getting that little flavonoid out, and that's what actually makes this supplement. And it's used for a lot of different reasons, but I think the main reason that we use this medication in veterinary medicine is as a liver protectant. Has a lot of antioxidant properties and can be used to help decrease inflammation within an antioxidant injury within the liver. And then it also helps to detoxify. So especially livers that aren't quite working so well, it's helping to do the job of that liver and try to detoxify the blood as things are moving through. And it's actually been shown to work quite well. They've done some really nice research that shows, yes, it does work, but the dose is super important. So you have to use this as directed by a veterinarian, or you could be potentially underdosing your pet and not getting the full effect. So that's the really important with milk thistle. And a lot of times it's combined with other liver protectants, such as SAMe, to help minimize any injury or inflammation within that liver. So we're using it for hepatitis, liver failure cases, so some of our older pets that have liver cancer, if they've gotten into some sort of toxin, specifically, those are some of the areas that we're going to be using it. And generally pretty well tolerated. Typically tummy upset is the biggest thing that we see if your pet's not going to tolerate that medication very well. All right. Let me just see. Okay, good. I just have two more. Dr. Cam gave me a 5-minute warning. So multivitamins. So multivitamins are another question that I get asked pretty frequently is, should my pet be on a multivitamin? And if your pet is eating a dog food that has been looked at by the American Association of Feed Control Officials, so on the back it'll have a little certifying stamp that says this food can be fed to a dog as a maintenance diet, then the answer is probably no. Because your pet's food should have everything in it that it needs on a day-to-day basis. Will this hurt your pet? Probably not unless you're giving really, really high doses or kind of overdoing the vitamins, because there are a few fat-soluble ones that we have to be a little cautious about because you can overdo it. But for the most part, most pets that are receiving commercial dog food aren't going to require a multivitamin. In pets that I say, yeah, you should really consider a supplement are pets that are receiving homemade diets. So owners are cooking at home. It can be really hard with homemade diets to get that vitamin and mineral composition just right, and that's where I lean on vitamin supplements to really help me out to make sure we're not getting any deficiencies. And then some of our diets that are meant to be given as a supplement, so some of our raw food diets, and then there are other commercial foods that aren't meant to be given as the only thing that your pet receives. So a lot of the times you'll see some of the little small meals and things. There on the back it says these should be given as a supplement, but some people are using them day to day as normal food, and that's where I say, okay, we really have to be careful and we need to be considering a multivitamin to watch those areas closely. and generally super well tolerated. Like I said, the biggest thing that we worry about is those fat-soluble vitamins, but if you're using them as directed, that risk is pretty low. All right, and the last one. So this is the one that Dr. Pam had asked me to chat about because this is one that she's seen used frequently. So, and is it pronounced Trameal? Trameal, okay, I was gonna say, I don't personally use this, so I'm not as familiar, so I had to do some digging on this one. So it's a combination of different plant and mineral extracts that are all kind of combined into one product. So you'll see things like arnica and other substances that are kind of built into this product. Unfortunately, I did a ton of digging and I can't find any really formalized research that could tell me a whole lot about how's the best way to use this, you know, what's its safety index, you know, how can I use this day to day. I think we have a lot of anecdotal evidence, so people using it and saying, hey, I used it for this and I thought it really helped, but unfortunately the formal studies just weren't there in both the human and the medical and the pet market. It comes in a lot of different ways. It comes as injections, it comes in ointments, it comes in tabs, it comes in drops. And typically we're using it for really inflammatory conditions. So we're using it for arthritises, inflammatory bowel disease, skin disease, things along those lines that have lots and lots and lots of inflammation. And generally, it seems like it's quite well tolerated. I think that the biggest thing that I noticed when I was going through a lot of different journal articles and things like that is that some people would notice sensitivity where the injections was given, if it was given as an injection, or some dogs got a hypersensitivity reaction where the cream or ointment was applied. So just a sensitive skin where they got kind of a rash where they put the ointment. But generally pretty well tolerated. In general. And really the only thing that they said, I really wouldn't consider using this is a lot of the autoimmune diseases because they were concerned that it could potentially suppress the immune system even more. So another one that it's kind of one of those that's out there. I'm curious to see where research goes and if it gives us good feedback on, yeah, you know, we've done a nice study that says we used it to treat this and these patients did well. I think it's there and ready to use and quite safe, so that's nice to know. Any questions, any personal experience with this medication that you want to share, anyone? All right, so that was the end of my formal. I have a few other supplements and things that are up here. I kind of just touched on a few of the ones that I see most commonly, but if you have any that you would really like to chat with me or one of the other doctors about, please come up and grab one of us because there are tons and tons of supplements out there. And I think the biggest take home for me is I think most veterinarians for the most part are open to using these in day-to-day practice. We just want to make sure we're doing that in a safe way for your pet. So let us know what you want to use and we'll try to figure out the best way to use it. Oh yeah. I was going to say, Gib, you know Zilkeen too. So I actually ran and got this one because this is another one that my nervous dog gets a lot. So this is an all-natural milk casein. It has a really similar effect on dogs as babies after they've been breastfed, where it has this nice, calming, relaxing effect on our pets. It's used commonly for anxiety. I've used it for patients that are a little bit nervous or timid to come into the veterinary clinic. I've used it in patients that get mild stress or anxiety when they're boarding, or even trips in the car is another really common one. And it comes in a little capsule, and you open up the little capsule, and honestly, I'll just put it in my hand just like this, and my dog will just lick it right off. And I usually do it about an hour to 2 hours before his stressors, so his is boarding and being away from us because he's too attached. And then also thunderstorms. And for mild fear, anxiety, or stress, I think this is a really nice natural alternative that's very well tolerated, where you just see this very just calming, zen, relaxed appearance to these pets. And it just helps them to, minimize their anxiety to the point where they're comfortable. Anything else on that one? Yeah, I do too. Yeah, and there's not really that sedating where they feel kind of loopy and out of it. He just gets this nice, really calm, relaxed.
I was just wondering, do you only want to use it with anxiety or what about pets? Okay.
do you only use it with anxiety, or what about pets that get like super, super excited? Like my dog loves to come to the
Yeah.
vet, but he gets so excited because he's so happy to see everybody. But it might be helpful if he was just a little bit calmer.
No, and I think in that case it has a great place, because just like Dr. Pam said, it just has that mild calming effect where it doesn't make them really sedate or drunk or really tired. It just takes the edge off enough that they relax and are very calm. Like he usually is just kind of, you know, hanging around. He smiles a lot. He's pretty just happy.
Any contraindications for that?
So because it is a milk casein, so there are going to be those pets that just have sensitivities where they may have some GI issues secondary, but generally quite well tolerated. But just like with any medication, there's going to be pets that have sensitivities, and those are going to be some of our milk protein sensitivities. So I use it for personally, so I use it for thunderstorms, fireworks, and then travel. And I've had nice results with all three of those. I would say though it's meant for more mild anxiety, so our more moderate to severe anxieties. I think it can be used in combination with other products, but sometimes alone is not quite enough.
And for thunderstorms and fireworks, Zilkene plus Cilio is the answer. Period. And I don't think they'll ever make anything better than Zilkene and Cilio in combination.
And that's why I really like a lot of these supplements, is a lot of them aren't meant to be given as the end-all be-all, but they're nice to be used in combination with different treatments, which is one of the ways that I think we can best use them, because I think there's a place for a lot of these in almost any pet, and it's just using them in coordination with some of our more traditional therapies that really help some pets get better control of their osteoarthritis or allergic skin disease or pretty much any disease, honestly. All right, yeah.
I noticed that a lot of these are anti-inflammatory. Overdo the anti-inflammatory.
So you always have to be careful. So there is such a thing as polypharmacy. So you have to be careful anytime you use two medications at the same time. We really have to be cautious to say, you know, how do these medications or supplements work together? And that's where I think engaging your veterinarian to really know, okay, these two things, yes, they can be used in concert, but maybe because we're using them together, we're going to use slightly different doses. So that way, just how you said. But for the most part, they're quite safe to be used in concert. But I would always recommend discussing with your veterinarian, because every case, every product is very different depending on how we're treating and if there's anything else happening with that pet.
So I've been feeding my dog Ocean Health for no good reason other than I read that it was good for them. Do you guys have any, something I need to refill it, and maybe I won't if you don't have
The question was ocean kelp. I have no experience.
I'm gonna say,
Ashley says you have to be careful with the iodine in kelp.
I personally have not read anything specifically, but I will be very biased and say I am an evidence-based medicine person. I am internist to the core. That is my area of interest. That is what I love. So to me, I want a paper that says we did a really great study and it was non-biased and these are the results I get, and then I'm like, yeah, I'm on board. So to me, I'm open to trying a lot of new things, but the other thing I always have in the back of my mind is I want something that says that this works, because I want you to spend your money on something that works. Because I think there's a lot of stuff out there, and I'm not sure how great, yeah. 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 And I think that's the hardest part is getting through the marketing, honestly.
Okay, you guys, thanks so much, Dr. Lindsay. You rock.
Thank you. And come check out, I got a bunch of samples and stuff up here. Come check them out.
And stick around and ask questions.